Alright, hey everybody, this will be warnings in Revelations part 27, or 27 part 4. So it started to rain again here in lovely Ardmore, Oklahoma, and might even be some severe weather out there. Saw some lightning flashing. I don't know, I haven't checked the weather radar or anything here. I have to go down to Dallas Fort Worth area and deliver. Thought about going down there earlier, but it's like, you know, where are you gonna park down there, you know? So I haven't Googled the first drop down there yet to see what kind of street they're on or anything like that. There'll be parking, so I figure I'm just gonna take off about 4 in the morning and go down there, maybe a little sooner. But anyhow, so like I'm trying to say is, you know, there's information and knowledge out there that a lot of it's been hidden on purpose from us, and a lot of it's just maybe been lost through time, and you know, a lot of things going on in the world as an average man or woman that are completely out of our control. And so you might say, you know, like I used to say when I was younger, people used to say, oh, they're doing this or that, and it's like, what do you want me to do about it? You tell me, fine, you know, ain't nothing I can do, you know. And you still feel that way even when you get older, because there's a lot of things, what am I supposed to do about it, you know? Y'all want to vote me president, and then maybe I can do something about it. But even that, look at it, you know, even that's not because it's not like a monarchy, a kingdom where you just give the order and it's done. But you have to fight Congress and all that kind of stuff. But as far as that goes, I think our federal government budget should be shrunk big time, and income taxes should be minimized, and you should only actually, if we can't get rid of them altogether, we should only pay them from like between the ages of 24 and 64. That's it. Unless you make a ton of money, like over $1 million, then maybe you got to start paying tax on it again. But I think that would give young people a chance maybe to put money towards their education or towards their future in a house, or save it for something. And then the elderly, what are you taxing them for? I mean, most of them are retired anyway, and they go and get a part-time job trying to make ends meet because Social Security doesn't cut it. You know, and I'm not saying you should raise Social Security, because actually I think most people get more than they pay into it, because a lot of people die and that money just stays in there, and the government uses that to give to everybody else, and then I'm sure there's a large portion of it they siphon off for other things. So, but you know, if you're 64, 65 years old and you still feel like working, why should you be penalized? You know, one, I think Social Security does need to be redone. You know, I don't think you should get more than what you pay into it, and I think it ought to be for a set term. Here, you're going to get this much for, you know, this amount of years. You're going to get this much every month, and then that's it, so that people would plan and save for their old age, instead of being you know, wasteful with their money through their whole lives, and then all of a sudden they're old and retired and having to wait on that check every month. So I think that needs to be revamped. But then by the same token, I think if you're, you know, you still want to work and stuff, you shouldn't be penalized. You know, if you work over this many hours, they're going to cut your benefits. You know, that don't make sense. You know, somebody's going to try to survive and work, and then you're gonna kick them in the ass for doing so. That don't make any sense. So I think, you know, once you reach 64, that's it. Unless you make a lot of you know, income from investments, or you get a really high paying job or something, and you're making over, you know, a couple $100,000 or whatever, you know, they want to figure out what the schedule would be on the taxes and stuff. I don't think you should have to pay anymore. You've done your share, you know. But you know, I think that should be that, and then the federal tax rate should be lowered. You know, until you make a certain large amount of money, then maybe make the schedule go up. But I really don't think if it costs an average person, you know, $30,000 a year to survive with food and medical and housing and stuff like that, then, you know, I don't think you should be taxed on like that first $30,000 if that's what the average is, you know, through the nation to just exist. You shouldn't be taxed on your shelter and food and stuff like that just to survive. And if that's all you know, maybe that'll be the bottom rung. You know, we're not going to start taxing you until you make $30,000, and then at $30,000, you know, maybe at $31,000 it's like 0.01%, $32,000 0.02%. You know, and then just keep having the scale go up like that. So, you know, when you get to $40,000, you're at 1%. And this would be, you know, no write-offs. You know, you don't get all that kind of stuff. It's just going to be a basic schedule. Everything else is going to be moot. This is just going to be, you know, the federal tax minimized. And then your state taxes, you know, where you would have more control over what your local government and your state government did with the money. That's how they get away with this. You know, and all the money goes to Washington. You know, you really don't have a voice there. You're supposed to, but you really don't, because when all your senators and Congress people and stuff get to Washington, it's a spend frenzy. They forget all about, you know, hey, where the money's coming from. And, you know, oh, this one's got this idea for this, and we're going to spend on this and this. And we're going to give NASA all this money for God knows what. You know, they say we give Mexico $180 million a year in foreign aid, and all these other countries these millions of dollars in foreign aid. And it's like, where does it go? Who's keeping an eye on this money? Where's it going? Because $180 million to Mexico a year, and we still got all these people trying to cross our borders. What's Mexico doing with the money? Then I heard a thing that's funneled through Catholic charities that don't even directly go to the government. So I know it's getting siphoned off here. And I mean, what are they doing with this money? Who's watching that? Who's going down there and saying, what are you doing with the money? Why are all these people still flooding north? We're giving you plenty of money to provide for people, to, you know, give them a house or something, or you know, does Mexico have a welfare program and all this? You know, I don't know any nation. I'm sure there's others out there that pretty much tell their poor, go ahead and leave. We don't care. Go be somebody else's problem. You know, we get all the criticism because, you know, a lot of people in this country are fed up, you know, with just all these people pouring into the country, and they do drive down wages, and they do take jobs. They're not all fruit pickers, folks. I'm sorry. You know, 10%, maybe 20% are out there picking fruit and stuff. The rest of them out here, they're driving trucks, they're working at construction sites, they're working in the restaurants and hotel businesses, and you know, you might say, oh yeah, they come in and do all the menial tasks nobody else wants to do. I'm sorry. When I was a kid, I washed plenty of dishes in plenty of restaurants. You know, and the average kid, when I was a teenager, you went into McDonald's, there was another kid on the other side of the counter taking the order. Now it's a 40-year-old Mexican woman trying to support a family and screaming about wages aren't enough. You know, it's like, you know, they got to stop all the political stuff and start taking a really hard look at the causes and effects, and stop passing off people's valid arguments that something that needs to be done as being racism. And you know, that's just, it's ridiculous, because it is having an effect on our economy. And if you're a criminal in Mexico, Would you rather rot in a Mexican jail, or would you rather come try and hide out in the United States? So Trump is right when he says there's a lot of criminals and a lot of gangs and stuff coming up here. And that goes back to, I want to say about the manipulation of people through mass media and stuff. And I'm not taking political sides or Trump sides or anything like that. I'll give you one example is, the war on drugs. Look how long that's been going on. You look at all the abilities our government has to, intelligence abilities, to find out information, to track information. They can seize bank accounts of whole countries and corporations and put a freeze on, transactions and assets and all this. But for some reason, these cartels who are making billions of dollars, they just, they can't just seize all that money and stuff and say, there you go. No, can't do that. So that's why I say don't be naive. When you see stuff on the news and stuff, and just, you gotta ask some questions. The reporters aren't going to ask, like I said before, they're not going to ask hard questions to anybody. They like jet setting around the world, talking with these politicians and celebrities and athletes and stuff, and they like their 6 and 7 figure salaries for some of them. They like all that. They're not going to tell you the truth or upset those in power by putting them on the spot, by asking hard questions and not letting go. Hell no, they ain't going to do that. They'll be denied access. Are you kidding me? It's all fluff. That's all you're going to get. There aren't real hard investigative journalism out there anymore. Are you kidding me? So, and the same with, you look at, you don't hear so much about them anymore in the news, but ISIS, when they were supposedly selling all this oil and all this, and that's how they were getting these weapons and all this and everything. It's like, come on, man. That takes large infrastructure and large transactions to be selling all kinds of oil and stuff and everything. You don't know who they're selling it to? Oh, I think it came out later. Kind of hushed it up, but it was going through Israel and Turkey, and probably eventually into the ports of Houston. And then they're getting watch a movie called the Lord of War with Nicolas Cage. There's no way a group like that or any other group can fight for so long like that. And they try and say, well, they got all these weapons from the Iraqi military when they chased them out and all this. The Iraqi military didn't have that much stuff, with the first Gulf War and then everything else and the sanctions and everything against them all that time. The amount of ammunition, just think about it. If you're here in America and you wanted to rise up and say you got 10,000 guys or 20,000 guys and you're going to take on the government because you don't like the way things are going, how long do you think you would last? How much ammunition would you have to spend? You need a constant supply and resupply. That's one thing about the arms industry and everything. Everything for the military is made to be, it's going to be destroyed. So there's a constant another sale right behind it. It's guaranteed business, because everything's going to get effed up. No matter what you got. You get the top of the line ships and planes, or just soldiers on the ground, the guns, and the constant ammunition that's needed. So we funded and and this is another thing, and people, oh, you're not patriotic, you're criticizing your country. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy. And if you're an American, and you care about what direction the country's going, then you can't let these fools run off unbridled and drag us into all kinds of stuff. You got a voice and speak out against it. Now, like, so they funded, when Russia was in Afghanistan, they funded Al-Qaeda and all this. I think they funded more the Northern Alliance and stuff like that. I don't think they funded bin Laden so much, but I'm sure they dealt with him or people around him and stuff. But anyway, they funded the opposition. So, and they didn't care what was done. I mean, I'm sure there was atrocities committed on Russian soldiers we never heard about or anything like that, or not well, I guess it'd be atrocities, but I'm sure, though I don't recall ever hearing of them, of maybe some of them being beheaded, or anything. I don't know if they did. Al-Qaeda was into that. I don't think Al-Qaeda was ever into doing that. I think that was just strictly an ISIS thing. But the point is when ISIS comes along, and everyone's, oh, they're, how are they, doing it? Well, they're selling the oil. Well, you can't tell me nobody knew where it was going and they couldn't cut it off, or the funds and stuff, that they didn't know where the ammunition was coming from. They couldn't cut that off. So there was different things going on, and then you look at Gaddafi, the people who killed Gaddafi and stuff. We funded and trained them and everything. We funded and trained these people in Syria. John McCain, granted, he's a Vietnam War hero and all that. Well, unless you ask Trump, but he served his country, was shot down. But he's armed anybody and everybody. Let's arm them. Let's arm them. Let's, we're going to push the American agenda. We'll arm these people. We'll overthrow these people. We'll do this and that. I mean, he's not far from like people like Cheney. But and then you had that stuff in Benghazi, and so you can't tell me that wasn't some kind of we funded these people, this and that, gave them weapons and all this, and then after they did the deed, they probably tried to double cross them, and that's what the Benghazi stuff was about. Maybe they were Gaddafi loyalists who took out some revenge. Who knows? But you can look at what Saddam. They funded all kinds of people to. They told the Kurds, the first Gulf War, rise up and fight Saddam. America will stand with you. And they stood up and they tried to fight, and Saddam gassed them with gas that was left over from the gas we sold them to gas Iranian soldiers. And so then, he's the bad guy there for that. So there's all this political stuff going on and different alliances, and who's our enemy today is our ally the next day, and the State Department and the powers that be and the Council of Foreign Relations and all this, who want to try and mold the world their way, have no problem. There could be a group who killing American soldiers one day, and the next day we're giving them money to go and fight Iranians or whatever. That's just the way they do business. That in D.C. and in these nation builders. All I see is them destroying nations. I don't see them building anything. But the point is, you can't let them drag us, if you're an American, into all this, and keep your eyes closed as to what they're doing, and not look at the hypocrisy. Hillary Clinton, ISIS is bad and this and all the things they did and all this, but then there she is, she's laughing her ass off at what they did to Gaddafi. What's the difference? I'm saying is, if something is abhorrent, then it's abhorrent. You can't do it and say, well, it's okay for us. And as a people, we can't go along with it. It's like the torture and stuff. When they say, oh, well, well, it's not torture. It's this bullshit. Look what all you gotta do is look at those pictures from over there in Abu Ghraib. You want to tell me that's not torture? Give me a freaking break. What kind of people are we going to be? And it's up to us. We're the people. We got to stand up and say, you're not going to do this shit. Yeah, we got to defend the country. Yeah, we got a lot of things we need to work out. But we're not going to cross the line. It's just, I know there's a lot of people don't see it that way. You gotta be the biggest, baddest junkyard dog there is, and there is no line. There's only winning and losing, and that's it. So there'll always be those two different types of thought, I guess. But the point being, is about being naive and the different hypocrisies and stuff, and then going back to with like I said, when I was younger, what's it to me? I can't do nothing about it. Whatever. Maybe there's enough of us we can do some things, but I'm bringing this up because the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, if there's things you can't change by your hand, then you gotta at least speak out about it. And if you can't do that, you at least got to condemn it in your heart and in your mind to yourself. So what can men really do? So one, worship your Creator, give praise to Allah, do what you can to bolster faith, giving in charity, learning, and you don't have, there's nothing that says you have to know everything about everything and every hadith or what every prophet said. You do need to study the Quran, read the Quran, and pray and fast, and take care of your duties that way. And because the world, the people in power in the world and around the world and stuff are just, there's really not a lot that can be done for us to change the world than to get information and knowledge out there. And hopefully, praise be to Allah, be successful and get more and more people to learn, and also to stay in the middle path and not be dragged into, because you can start out on one side, like in the two political parties in America. You can start out on one side like thinking, they're the more peaceful one, this and that. They're not. Democrats have supported just as much war and wrongdoing as the Republicans have and everything. And I'm going to bring up an example: the Muslim congresswoman who just got, the right is lambasting her because she said, we should know we side with Israel, and we ought to take a look at these politicians and people in this country who are pledging allegiance to Israel. And she's right. Everyone who runs for president goes to Israel. Why? You're running for president of the United States of America. Not the, Israelis. So she's getting a lot of flack for that, but same token, she's in the Democratic Party, who supports abortion and homosexuality and all these other things. And it's like, so, you can try and be middle of the road, but they're gonna drag you either one side or the other. So I think we need an independent party in this nation that can stay in the middle and condemn what's on the left that's wrong and what's on the right that's wrong, and try and form a party that's just for truth, and taking care of business of the day, the meat and potatoes, what to make lives easier for people to live. And I don't mean by giving them everything under the sun. I just mean by getting off their backs with so many taxes and things, and stuff, but you look at, there's a lot wrong with both parties, and on some things they're both wrong. Going to, you look at they're wanting to legalize all these drugs and everything now and stuff, and a lot of that's coming from both parties. So I think it's going to be a really trying time, at least for the next 20 years in this country. And you need to voice as much as you can is that, hey, we need to wake up and not go down some of these avenues that they're pointing us to, whether it's on the left or the extreme right. You'll always get flack no matter what side you take. You're going to get flack. You're going to be either you're unpatriotic and you hate your country type stuff, or you're going to be labeled as, something else. Who knows what they'll come up with. But I think we need people with reasonable minds and attitudes, and who aren't extreme in their views, but who are very knowledgeable about the things in the world and stuff, and not necessarily total outsiders and stuff. But anyway, those are my thoughts on that stuff, and about how perception, how we're brought up, and the manipulation by media can make us see things and stuff, and how we need to take a look at ourselves and make sure we're not being hypocrites and doing those things that we abhor ourselves. We're good at pointing the finger. Look at these people are doing here, and you got the rest of the world pointing their finger back. Well, look at what you're doing. And that's the one thing about Judgment Day. Allah is not going to be unfair to anybody, but there's a lot of people who think they're going to somehow not going to. They're going to get a free pass for some reason, and it's a shame on the Republican right. You got so many of these evangelicals pushing that it's more or less in their mind God only cares about the United States and Israel, and that's what they more or less teach to their congregations. So that's the way it comes across. It's very Zionistic, xenophobic, whatever you want to call it, and it's not healthy. It is not healthy. They give you the wrong opinion of other people around the world. You're not all that matters. The scriptures say the whole world is His and everything in it is His. That means every human being too. So, but anyhow, talking about Israel, so like even if you go in the Bible, there's a verse: all who say they are of Israel are not of Israel. And so that I wanted to kind of go into Shia beliefs here about, in the beginning, Allah appointed His Caliph, representative, Adam, and their doctrine says Shia, and if you look at it logically, and even if you read through the Bible, you can see from generation to generation there was either a prophet or somebody associated with the prophet who was leading the people. And then when you come to Jesus, peace be upon Him, He declared, He's the seed of David. And in the scriptures, it says God, Allah, promised David, his seed would rule forever. So now there's black theology here in the United States now. I don't know about anybody else in the world, who say that the Jews who are over there now are not Israel, and that Jesus was black and He preached against white Jews who usurped Israel and stuff like that. I have no idea the color of anybody at the time and stuff, but however, at the time, the rulers of Israel and stuff were threatened by Jesus, because here he is, he's saying he's the seed of David, he's the Messiah, which means, he's more or less the appointed by God to lead Israel, which means they're going to have to give up their posts. So, and I know later, it says, he said his kingdom isn't of this world and stuff, but he told people to follow him, return to their religion, and accept him, so that they would be saved from the Roman onslaught, because he said the Romans were not there but to kill and destroy. And so it's like each time before, when Israel went into captivity, prophet was sent, told them to return. They refused, and they were, taken over by Babylon or Egypt or the Assyrians or whoever. So, like I said, there's lessons in all the things of the past to look at, and then like I said, look at what happened to Egypt, and look at the Book of Revelations. All the plagues and stuff are pretty much the same types of things. So. So anyway, the Messiah, so saying he's the seed of David, so either the Blessed Virgin Mary, peace be upon her, was a descendant from Israel and David, or somehow, and all things are possible for Allah, the genetics of the seed of David. He made Jesus in the womb of Mary, and peace be upon her, and she was like, the surrogate or whatever, but she was Jesus' mother. I mean, it's not like, that wasn't her son, but, he was reestablishing the throne of David. When the Antichrist comes, the false Messiah, he'll try and reestablish and rule the world from the throne of David in Jerusalem. The false Messiah. Eventually, the real Messiah will, but this false guy, and whether he claims he's Jesus in the beginning and stuff, I don't know if he'll just denounce, well, yeah, the Jews are right, Jesus wasn't the Messiah, I'm the Messiah, whatever. He's going to be a Jew though. But so I guess I'm gonna make a part 5 on this, because I went off on a tangent in politics and stuff, and didn't cover as much about the Shia theology with lineage and stuff like I wanted to. But if you look at Israel, and like even David had to fight his own people, some of his own people who wouldn't accept him as ruler, and we're trying to usurp him. And then if you look at whether you follow that black theology, or if it was just, didn't matter what color, but Jesus, peace be upon him, was trying to take power back from the people in his time who had usurped power and were ruling, and who weren't of the right, they weren't the chosen ones. So if you look at that, and then you look at the history of Islam and what happened with Ali, peace be upon him, I think you can see some similarities, and that's kind of where I wanted to point out. And I'll do another part on this and talk more about that. All right, be careful out there. Peace. Remember, no greater thing you can say than there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. All right, be careful out there. Peace.